And those are the things too. And this is where I know, Adam, you were giving props to the realtor, understanding the process and all that too. But in the same breath, man, like I want my realtor to be there for me as well too. And one thing too, and this is where a lot of times this is the truth of the industry, is that it's how everyone's in these playpens, and everyone's got to play nice together. And that's the whole thing. And especially be aware, and all the subtle things here too, just in recognizing your surroundings. Like when you have real estate people that are perhaps transacting on a purchase that are from the same office, people will play nicer together. Okay. Bottom line is, like, you got representation by anybody, whether it's an attorney, a mortgage person, a real estate person, a home inspector. It's one thing the objective is not to be true to the process, is not to make the process come to fruition. The objective is for everybody to do their job and look out in the best interest of the client. And then one thing to be said is that, like I say, even for example, for that broken truss cord, if once something like that is identified, and secondly, once it's shared, it now becomes a known flaw to the house. And that's the key thing. And that is the leverage in negotiation that a buyer has when legitimate findings are uncovered. And this is the important part, and shared. Okay. Once they're shared, now it's known. Now, somebody could say, oh, that's a bunch of baloney. You got an inspector that's just a hyperactive worrywart that calls everything out that possibly could happen, when in reality, 90% of it is not happening. Well, when there's factual evidence to something going on, and it's true, and Tom, you got a picture of it, then that's an addressable item. And if it's not addressable for the person who's willing and able and ready to buy a house, barring maybe a little knockdown of price or whatever, the thing is, if for whatever reason there's no meeting of the minds, then that information, number one, and this is a whole other discussion, needs to be addressed. And the law says, on a side note here, that those disclosure statements, when you do an inspection, one of the things you want to ask is, do your best to try to get a copy of that disclosure statement. And another question to ask too is, like, especially with the circumstances that are in play, is a question that I'd like to ask is, like, were there any other deals in this house? Because that disclosure statement is obligated to be updated when there's factual evidence identified of the house. And that disclosure statement needs to be redated or redone. And I can tell you right now, rarely is that done in that way. That is the law. That's the way that it's supposed to happen. And that is the reason why a lot of times today, compared to the methodology in years past, is where years and years ago, everyone did want a copy of that report because they wanted to know. What we've learned over the years, in this case, we being the real estate community, is that we don't necessarily want a copy of the report, because now we can play dumb. Now we don't know what the inspector found. Now we don't know anything about the house that's new to everybody else. And so as a result, that information doesn't have to be conveyed to subsequent buyers if the deal falls apart. So one of the things you might want to ask, like I said, moving forward as an inspector, or at least ask your client to find out, were there any other deals on the house? And you can ask what caused the deal to fall apart. And if anything was conveyed that it was somehow inspection related, they're probably going to say, we never got a copy of the report, so we really don't know why, but they backed out of the deal. So just a little sidebar note to try to get some intel about the process. And if anything, it's just information to be had and information to be considered on there as well too. So a lot of there's always good information to be had. I know you guys are suckers like I am about getting as much information as possible, and I say that in an endearing way, in a positive way as well too. And I think that it helps for us as inspectors to be thirsty for that information